What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with data points, Monday is going to be more of a technical driven day. In fact, actually the beginning part of the week, there's not a lot going on. So Monday, I think, might be getting the rollover of negativity from Friday. So in case you do not know, Friday, a lot of the market started to panic over rising or potential rising inflation. And even some people are extending it a little bit further just on a broad recession, because you see a lot of bears starting to bring up saying that credit card balances are at all-time highs, like across the board. A lot of consumers can't afford anything, so it's going to prompt a recession. So you're having, like I said, it kind of escalate rather fast. So that might roll over into Monday, the negativity. Tuesday, you have a couple Fed speakers. They could actually help calm the market a little bit, saying that the data is good. So again, that is coming out on Tuesday. Quite a few Fed speakers on a side note, but Wednesday, similarly, a couple of Fed speakers, not a lot in data points. Thursday, you do have the typical stuff in addition to GDP. And so that right now forecast right now is 2.3, and that's quarter over quarter. So that's going to be a big data point alongside PCE, and that's coming out on Friday. Each one of those data points has the ability to really move the market. So again, stay tuned for that. And then now you're also throwing in companies unveiling their earnings. So yours truly is Thursday after hours. You also have Nvidia. So that is going to cause a hell of a lot of volatility. Everyone's going to be listening to their earnings and what they give for future guidance, like at the edge of their seat. And if they do fail to give good future guidance, then the market is just going to sell off so much more. So again, that is coming out Wednesday after hours. I'll go over a little bit more details to the SoundHound one. I'm going to be live streaming that on a side note, but that is Thursday after hours. So starting off, actual estimates right now are -8 cents for the earnings per share, 33.7 million for the revenue. And then over the last 90 days, 0 positive and 1 negative revisions to the earnings per share. There was one analyst that did change a estimate, because they can change estimates anytime without changing ratings. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily know that, but this right here, the earnings per share was -9 cents, and then it did go to -8 cents. So meaning a analyst kind of upped their estimate. So that's kind of a good thing, but the gap estimate is still -10 cents for that. Quickly going over here, so that -10 cents, so that's the gap kind of component, that does represent -35.71% year over year. -10 is the low, -8 is the high based on 6 analysts. And then right here, the revenue, that 33.7 works out to be 96.52% year over year growth. So coming from a investor standpoint, this is exactly what you want to see as far as growth, like double or triple digit. And I think a lot of tech stocks obviously encumber that. 33.03 million for the low, 34.55 is the high. That's based on 7 analysts. So like I said, I think a lot of the market takes this into consideration, a lot of the key metrics, but in all honesty, it is going to be the future guidance. What they say is that's what's going to be a success or like a fail. So it's going to be simply that. As of right now, though, the implied move is 16.94%. So that works out to be roughly $1.75 move in either direction. So just be aware that this is the highest that SoundHound has ever been going into a earnings. So it's going to be a lot of volatility. And historically speaking, you can kind of see based on all these columns right here, this one right here where it says 1 day move looks like roughly around 65 to 70% of the time they do miss. Upside, when they do beat, it seems to go up roughly between 3 to 7%. Downside though, it looks like it usually ranges recently from like -6 cents to -18. So a little bit more downside based on that. And the reasoning is, same goes for Palantir. I've brought this up in the past that sometimes, regardless of the results, some stocks might actually give good future guidance, good key metrics, and still go down. And that is because a lot of Wall Street doesn't actually know how to appropriately value innovative companies such as Palantir. So Palantir kind of experienced that when it was between like the $15 to $30 range. Now I think analysts are still bearish on it sometimes, and the market just doesn't care whatsoever. But SoundHound, I feel like the market might care. And what I'm talking about is this. So SoundHound isn't profitable, so no point looking at the PE ratio or anything. But if you're looking at the PS ratio, right now it is at 56.6. So because of the recent pullback, it kind of did cause this to reset. But similarly, this is the highest that it's ever been going into a earnings. So the market's going to be really looking at this and say, hey, you're paying, like, is this worth it? You're paying 56.6x the sales just for essentially like $1. So it like a lot of people can be really looking at this, and unfortunately sometimes it does cause a little bit more downside, and most likely that's actually what prompted some pullbacks in the past. So you can actually see from this column right here, they have actually beaten on their earnings per share and revenue in the past, but they still do go down. So again, just be aware that there's going to be a lot of volatility. So if you thought SoundHound was volatile before, this week is going to be completely out of like the ballpark. So essentially, a couple of things that you really want to hear from SoundHound during that conference call itself is them to address this recent S3. So essentially, it is dilution. It's a shelf offering good for 3 years. Ideally, you'd want to hear them talk about a acquisition or planned acquisitions in the foreseeable future. And based on historical data, they love to do acquisitions. And I think most of the tech sector does. But again, you really want to watch for them to say that. If not, then you can kind of code this as just operational. So meaning they're adding like a moat around them. So they'll be good for any downturn in the market. They'll be good operationally. And you can kind of see from over here their earnings or their financials. So ultimately, based on the last earnings, which doesn't encumber any dilution that has been occurring, 135.6 million in cash and cash equivalents. They're burning through roughly 35.3 from operations. So adding that extra dilution, they're kind of giving themselves a longer runway. But again, you really want to hear acquisitions. Most recently, Celsius, even though their earnings was like single digit growth, so it wasn't all that great, but Celsius did go up a huge amount on Friday, 27.77%, because they did a acquisition, and the market saw that acquisition as bettering the company bigger picture. So once again, acquisition is going to be something that you really want to hear from them. Aside from that though, what innovative and partnerships do they have planned? What is coming for the foreseeable future? Is there some things in the mix? Because in all honesty, they have done a hell of a lot of actual conferences, like a lot more than the normal for them. So is this actually paying off? That's what investors also want to find out, because this is clearly their marketing aspect, so word of mouth. And so like all these conferences cost money. So investors will be looking at, hey, is this actually advantageous to the company, and is it resulting in, like, let's say, partnerships or anything for the company? So that's what the market's going to be also looking at. And as well, you'd ideally want the company to reconfirm that, hey, we're doing all these conferences and it's showing a lot of promising interest from blah, blah, blah sectors. So I think in general, like I said, there's a lot of good opportunity for SoundHound to really hit it out of the park. They just need to sell themselves. And I did listen to the last conference call. I did repeat it. And I think they struggled with kind of selling themselves and being truly optimistic. So I think, again, they need to really hit it home that they are doing a good job and that they do see a lot of big things for the foreseeable future. So that's just my viewpoint. Of course, you do whatever floats your boat. As far as options, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $13 range. And then the bears for this upcoming week, they are anticipating for it to be roughly around that $9 range. So let me know your viewpoint on that. But with it right now at $10.31, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 10.02 is going to be that strong support. Definitely watch for that early on in the week. Like I said, a lot of volatility, and so you might have a lot of additional fears kind of rolled over, but $12.48 and then $16.47 is going to be that next strong target / resistance point. So just watch out for those. And then aside from that though, on the actual chart itself, so right now it did close below that 100-day moving average, 50-day moving average, and also ALMA. So the next kind of strong support based on this is this right here, the 200-day moving average at 806. So in extreme cases, that could be potentially touched, like I said, with that almost 17% implied move. In theory, it's not, I guess, too far-fetched that it could hit that. Ideally, like I said, everything, they say all the right words, they give good guidance, and then it just kind of goes up from here. So let me know your general thoughts on that. One thing that could also come is new analyst ratings, or possibly even re-ratings from some pre-existing analysts, such as Daniel Ives. So let me know your general thoughts on SoundHound. Do you think that their earnings is going to be a beat, or is it going to miss? And what's your kind of price target for this week? Do you think it's going to get back to the $13 range or break to roughly around that 8-ish? Like I said, there is going to be a hell of a lot of volatility this upcoming week, so just be aware of that. Shorts, which on an average day is very active, they are going to be insanely active this week. So going into this week, 30.4% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 100.07 million shares. So anticipate them to really double down or potentially start to return on a daily basis. I always go over what shorts are doing. So if you do start to see shorts returning leading into SoundHound's earnings, that could be somewhat of a optimistic viewpoint that they see more upside with SoundHound, so they are trying to mitigate risk. So analyzing shorts and what they're doing is also going to be quite important this week. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon to give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. So definitely pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.